Hi, ocean lovers. Welcome to episode number 5 of Dive Stories, brought to you by PADI, helping millions around the world to seek adventure and save the ocean. I'm your host, Ocean Allison, and on today's episode, I'm chatting with Jillian Morris, more commonly known as Bimini Shark Girl. Jillian is a shark photographer and conservationist, marine biologist, and founder of her educational nonprofit, Sharks for Kids. From the tiny Bahamian island she calls home, Jillian shares inspiring shark diving stories, the ways in which diving has shaped her life, and all about the importance of education when it comes to shark conservation. All that and more coming right up. Thanks for being here. You're listening to Dive Stories. We bring the underwater world to you through in-depth conversations with inspiring divers from around the globe. Thanks for diving in with us as we seek adventure and save the ocean. Happy listening and happy diving. Today's Dive Stories guest is shark conservationist Jillian Morris, more commonly known as Bimini Shark Girl. Jillian, welcome to Dive Stories, and thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Allison. I'm really excited to chat with you today and talk a little bit about all things shark.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're actually going to start out by diving right into what we call the Dive 5. And how the Dive 5 works is at the start of each episode, I ask our guest 5 rapid fire questions about their experiences as a diver and an ocean lover. So are you ready to answer the Dive 5, Jillian?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, great. Number 1, where is the first place you ever took a breath underwater?
Off the coast of Kennebunkport, Maine. It was freezing, but amazing.
Awesome. Okay, number 2, if you were a shark, what species would you be?
The great hammerhead.
Okay, number 3, in one word, how does diving make you feel?
Freedom.
Number 4, who is an ocean hero that inspires you?
Dr. Sylvia Earle.
Number 5, in one word, what does the ocean mean to you?
Peace.
Amazing. Well, thank you for answering the Dive 5. We're going to get a little more in depth by jumping into the core of the interview now. And I want to start out by talking with you about the misconceptions that surround sharks, because there are a lot of them, as you know. And at this point, I mean, you've logged hundreds and hundreds of hours underwater with sharks, freediving, scuba diving, all kinds of different species, all kinds of different conditions and places around the world. You've definitely had a lot of experiences with sharks. But with that being said, there's also this whole world out there of negative and fear-evoking stigmas that surrounds sharks. So I'd love to ask you, how do your actual real-life underwater experiences with sharks, how do they differ from these misconceptions that so many people have when they think of sharks or they even just hear the word shark?
Yeah, it's drastically different because I think from an early age we're taught to fear sharks. We're taught to fear the unknown, and the ocean's a really big place and it's deep and it's dark and there's still so much about it we don't know. So with sharks being out there, there is sort of that natural, fear that comes when we don't truly understand something. And then you magnify that with they are a predator. We've evolved to be afraid of bigger animals. And then media has really accelerated that. So movies, obviously Jaws, and other movies that have come along, and now modern day, just general news articles, really hype up that fear and that misunderstanding. And I think for me is, in my experience, being in the water with them, watching them, seeing them, and having these moments with these incredible creatures, it's the reality. So my reality is they're beautiful, powerful creatures that absolutely deserve our respect every minute. They're a wild animal, but they're not these monsters they're made out to be. And I think that people, even if they've never seen a shark, all they have to go on is what they've heard or what they've been exposed to. And if that's all negative and scary, that's kind of where they're coming from. And I always tell people that if you have a chance to get in the water with a shark, that is the best thing for changing perceptions of these animals, because you'll see they're not trying to eat you. You'll see a beauty and elegance, and just hopefully respect for such an incredible animal that has, been around for so long, and what they can do and what they are. It's really, really remarkable. So I think my experience is so different, and that's what I want to share with other people, adults and kids alike, is to see the reality of these animals versus what we hear and see and what's kind of served up to us most of our life.
Yeah, definitely. So well said. Thank you for sharing about, again, your reality of these experiences that you've had with sharks versus these misconceptions. And my experiences have been similar in many ways in regards to just the awe and the beauty, and also the respect, of course. They're wild animals, but, they're such an important part of the marine ecosystem. And just I think anyone listening that has actually been underwater with a shark would agree that they're definitely not portrayed or thought of accurately in the mainstream. And I think us as divers, we have this amazing perspective on sharks that, in fact, they're incredible, beautiful, and they deserve our respect, like you said. Okay, so you grew up in Maine, and like you just said, your first breaths underwater were off the coast of Maine. But you've traveled around the globe. You've gone to all these different amazing places for work with sharks. But you now call the tiny Bahamian island of Bimini home, hence your name, like I mentioned, Bimini Shark Girl. So what is it about Bimini in particular that makes it the ideal place for you as someone whose life pretty much revolves around sharks?
Yeah, so I first visited Bimini in 2004, and it's, despite being super tiny, it's world renowned for sharks. The Shark Lab is here, the research station that's been here since 1990. Also, really incredible shark diving. They're also protected. The sanctuary is there, so it's illegal to catch and kill sharks. So it's a tiny little island, but it has a big presence in the world of sharks. And the Bahamas in general is considered the shark diving capital of the world. There are other research stations. Ecotourism with these animals has generated, over $100 million a year. So it's the place that if you want to spend time with sharks, you want to study them, you want to dive with them, photograph them, this is a place on the map. Ever since I came here the very first time, I felt something special. And to just go, yeah, okay, I want to go see a shark today, and just pick a spot and go and know that you're going to see a shark. Not hope, not a maybe, it's a guarantee. So any day of the year, I can go out and see sharks and pretty much pick the species I want to see, which there are very few places in the world that you can actually do that. So I just kept finding my way back here, and I was at a point in my life where my husband and I were traveling a lot, and we sort of wanted to have a home base and continue traveling for our work, but kind of return to the same spot and have a place that was really special that we could film and dive and run education programs. And we just kept ending up back in Bimini. And so it just finally, I don't know if the universe was saying this was the place for us, but we loved it. And so, yeah, we bought a house here, and that was almost 8 years ago.
You just mentioned that part of what you love so much about living on Bimini is the access to diving and filming sharks that you have there, which is just extraordinary. And I imagine it's really ideal for you and your husband, since you're both accomplished photographers and videographers. You guys have worked with all the big names, Discovery Channel, BBC, Nat Geo, Animal Planet, and so many others. I'm curious, though, when you're working on projects with these major entities, photographing, filming, marine life, what are some of the most important diving skills that you rely on in order to get, the best shots of sharks or whatever it is that you're filming?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to just be comfortable in the water, taking the time to do that and build your skills. So you need to be a good diver and a good free diver, and just being really, really comfortable. That has to come first before then you try and add a piece of equipment into your hands, because now your focus is on that. and it's less on your equipment and your buoyancy. So those things have to be really comfortable and really natural. Buoyancy is really important. You don't want to be crashing into corals. Patience is really, really important. Put yourself in their world, become part of it, relax yourself, and then you can capture those moments. And not forcing it is a really big thing. And whether that is someone who's shooting for a documentary or just taking photos because they love it, it's that same sort of setup. Is kind of, you can't force it, and to sort of, you need to be a natural observer in their world.
With the name of this podcast being Dive Stories, and with your love for sharks, obviously, I'd love to hear, what is one of your most memorable shark diving stories?
The thing is every dive with sharks is incredible, and I hope that I never get tired of that. I'm always excited, even if it's just a nurse shark, as you know, a lot of people say. I'm still excited because we're so lucky that we can put on this equipment that lets us breathe underwater. We get to be there and share these moments and interact with these animals. So I think for me, yeah, every shark dive is amazing, but the great hammerheads are like nothing else I've ever seen. And to watch them and to be in their world and to just sit down there, and I still have to sort of process it every time, is that we're sitting here with 10 to 13 foot great hammerheads cruising around us. They're coming in, and we get to be part of that. We're part of their world for just a few moments. And how lucky are we? And so I think that moment of really appreciating what we're able to do is really special. I'd have to say probably the other one that was most amazing, I was actually snorkeling because it was really shallow, was getting to see a lemon shark give birth in the water and being right there and filming it. So they give live birth, and the little lemon sharks have umbilical cords connecting them to their mother. So when they have to break free of that, and then they're on their own. There's no paternal care from any species of shark, and just really, really remarkable to see a life start and to see a shark life start.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about sharks since they're obviously your focus, but I'm curious, besides sharks, what other kinds of ocean animals do you love to dive with?
You know, we're really lucky here. People ask me about where I love to dive, and my backyard is pretty incredible. So we do have wild dolphins here, which freediving with them is really special. It's completely on their terms. They choose whether they're going to come in and hang out with you. So that's always really special. I think we don't have a lot of turtles. We have more than we have had in the past because of they're now protected in the Bahamas. So we are seeing more. But I feel like sharks are easy here. We know we're going to see sharks. We always see sharks. But I think like when you have a turtle cruise by, that to me is really special because we don't necessarily always see a lot of them. And just, you know, sitting by a coral reef and watching a school of fish move around it and interact in their sort of daily life, and just taking that quiet moment to stop and just watch, just observe for a second. We're not part of their world. We're just sort of getting a moment to take a glimpse. And so I think just being able to sit there and take that all in, again, it goes back to the fact that it's pretty awesome that we have this equipment that allows us to do that.
Ultimately, it sounds like you pretty much love being underwater with any animal, any ecosystem at all times.
Yeah, I mean, I think even every dive is just going, wait a minute, you know, I've got this equipment, and diving has changed my life. It really has shaped my life, and I've traveled. I've seen some of the most incredible things, things I never imagined I'd get to do because of scuba diving, because it's allowed me to spend time in another world, and it's really a gift, and it's really something I'm super grateful for, just because it has shaped so much of my life, the opportunities, the way I see the world, and how I share that experience with others.
Okay, ocean lovers, it's time for the dive log, the part of the show where we feature an epic dive story from one of our amazing listeners. This episode's listener dive story comes from Danica Coronel in the Philippines about an unforgettable dive that she had in Thailand. Let's dive in.
Hi, I'm Danica and I'm from the Philippines. I would say that my most memorable dive experience would be in Koh Samui, Thailand. The dive site was actually called Sail Rock. It's a huge rock with a lot of marine biodiversity around it, which was very amazing. I really enjoyed the dive because it was my first dive abroad, and unexpectedly, while diving, we encountered a whale shark. So, mind you, this wasn't the season for whale sharks, but we were lucky enough to spot a whale shark, and it was amazing. The fact that the rock itself was just breathtaking, and you can even penetrate the rock, and we saw a lot of marine biodiversity. I would say this was really the best dive experience.
Thank you so much, Danica, for sharing about your experience at Sail Rock with us. I would say that a surprise whale shark sighting definitely makes for an unforgettable dive. Listeners, if you have an epic dive story to share too, head to PADI.com/podcast to record and submit one of your most memorable dive stories for a chance to be featured in an upcoming episode. We love hearing from our global community of PADI divers, so head to PADI.com/podcast today. And now, back to this episode. So, Jillian, in 2013, you founded your nonprofit Sharks for Kids in order to, as you put it, create the next generation of shark advocates through education, outreach, and adventure. And you've connected with more than 100,000 students via classroom visits and virtual presentations, which is absolutely amazing. Overall, what do you love most about getting to bring sharks and the ocean to children around the globe?
To see how excited kids are and how, hopeful and inspiring they are. So when we talk to kids when they're young enough, we get them interested. And I love sharing that little lemon sharks have belly button scars and some sharks can glow. And, there's over 500 different species. So getting kids excited about more than just white sharks and tiger sharks and just helping them get interested and then also helping them connect, because kids want to do their part. They want to be part of something. And we all remember being young and feeling like, oh, I can't do anything. Like, what am I going to do? I'm just a kid. But kids have a voice, and I really believe in that. And I really believe in, if we give them tools and we kind of empower them, that they are a voice and they can make a difference. So I want them to learn about the oceans because I believe that they're going to protect the planet overall. They're going to clean up a lot of the mess that we've all made. And it also gives me hope, because when I go in and I see how excited they are and interested, and then I see the posters they make, and they made a blog or a video, and they're out in their community and they're raising money, and it gives me hope. It just reminds me that we can do this. And even though it can seem really overwhelming with all the environmental challenges, every day there is still hope. And these tiny little actions that each person, no matter how young you are, makes, it's creating change. And that to me is why I keep going, why I keep, fighting to protect these animals, trying to, speak to as many kids as possible and get this message out there, because it is the next generation, not just shark advocates, but really ocean advocates and global citizens.
And so obviously, in light of the global COVID-19 pandemic, in-person Sharks for Kids classroom visits haven't been possible lately, but I'd love if you could share with myself and listeners all of the amazing ways that you've actually ramped up your virtual programming and the online opportunities that Sharks for Kids is offering during this time.
In person is obviously amazing. We love visiting classrooms. Our team goes. I've traveled to quite a few countries, and it's incredible to stand in front of kids and talk about real experiences. I think also for young girls and young women to see a woman that's working in the field of science and diving and media. But time, money, planes, it requires a lot. Travel isn't always easy. And with virtual, you can be around the world in a single day. And so it's always been a big part of our program since we launched. We were doing Skype lessons. We've traveled over 1 million miles on Skype, connecting with classrooms around the world. But then when the pandemic hit, it absolutely shut down the option to physically be in a space. And And kids weren't necessarily they weren't in their classrooms either. So they're coming from home, and everyone was trying to figure out, what's the easiest way to deliver an interactive experience. And we had talked about doing larger scale webinars, and this really gave us the push to kind of say, right, we're set up, we're ready, let's go. And so, yeah, at this point now, we've done over 65 webinars with scientists, conservationists, divers, photographers from all over the world. And they're all, available live at the time so people can watch. But then they're also on our YouTube channel. At the time, it was something to give students, but also to give educators and parents, and hopefully not only just an educational tool, but some joy, some fun, and some interactive opportunities to ask questions from world-renowned scientists that are studying some of the deep sea sharks and all these different species and in different locations, and to bring that right to kids, which was really exciting. I had a ton of fun. I learned a lot. And the feedback has been amazing. And we slowed down a bit over the summer just because I think everybody needed a break from screen time. And we've just kind of relaunched again and are doing more this fall and sort of trying to provide more opportunities for now some kids that are back in the classroom. It still works for that, but also students that are still virtual and hybrid, and just to make it easy for everybody, no matter where they are, to still have these kind of learning opportunities.
Listeners, whether you have kids at home or you're a teacher or you yourself just love learning about sharks, like Jillian said, I highly recommend checking out the resources and the programming that Jillian has been putting out there and is still putting out there during this time. And visit sharks4kids.com. That's sharks, the number 4kids.com for listeners. Go there. You can also visit their YouTube channel, like she said, and check out all that amazing shark content. Well, with all this talk about kids, I definitely want to highlight your new little one. And, big congratulations to you and your husband, Duncan, on welcoming your new baby girl to the world.
Oh, well, thanks. It's been an absolutely incredible adventure. We're definitely tired. I won't pretend like we're not. And finding a balance as we're adjusting to a little less sleep and doing work and things with her in our life. So, yeah, just really excited to share our love of the ocean and animals and wildlife and an appreciation for that with her.
Yeah, I mean, from the pictures that I've seen, she's so cute, and she clearly loves all things shark already. I know you've got her in lots of shark onesies and lots of shark pillows and all sorts of stuff. I'm curious though, now being a mom and having a daughter of your own, how has it further reinforced for you the importance of, just educating and empowering youth to be stewards of the ocean? You've already had this passion for a long time. Like, how has that changed or amplified now that you're a mom?
I think it's definitely amplified just because the world is right. It's a weird place right now. This year has been challenging in a lot of different ways. And so I think for me, it's just really wanting her to grow up in a world that's clean and kind, and wanting her to grow up understanding that she can make a difference and that her actions will make an impact, and she'll find her voice. It doesn't have to be about sharks. Obviously, we hope it is, and that would be great, but to find her voice and to find the thing that she's passionate about and to be a global citizen. I mean, that's really what this all is. It's the emphasis is sharks, but ultimately we're all connected, and our actions impact other people, other places, and we can either make a positive impact by picking that trash off the beach, making sustainable choices in the food we buy and the products we buy. So we're all connected. And when the world is suffering, like, we're all impacted by it in some form, and we're all connected to the ocean no matter where we live. So I just hope that that we can raise her to be a global citizen. And that's really what the focus is with Sharks for Kids as well.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. That's so sweet. And I'm so excited for you and your new little family for so many reasons, and also for the future of our ocean planet, like you said. So another part of what Sharks for Kids offers is opportunities for firsthand, real life experiences for young students to actually interact with sharks. And again, I know in light of COVID, obviously things are different right now, but in the many years that you've been facilitating these in-water experiences, in what ways have you seen real life, powerful connections be built between kids and sharks?
So yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, when you say sharks and kids in the same sentence, they really freak out. But for me, it just seems like a natural, I kind of mentioned this earlier, for people to see these animals and create that personal connection, that is the strongest thing that you can do to change someone's perception. And so for us in the Bahamas, particularly in Bimini, we actually take kids out to see sharks and rays. So they get to go out and go to the stingray site on the beach. So they start out getting to see that, because a lot of the kids are really afraid of stingrays as well. They've heard, horror stories. And so we start out with that. Stingrays, nurse sharks, little black nose, and ease their way in. They learn how to use the snorkel equipment. Some of these kids, even though they live on an island, have never been on a boat before. And that to me is something that we have to correct. We have to give these opportunities to them. And I feel really lucky to be able to do that. So we get them out there. Then we have a reef shark site, so we can actually take them out. Depending on the age, the comfort level, we can take them out. They can get in the water. They can see these sharks. And we've had kids that go to shore on the beach with the stingrays and don't want to get in. And, the last trip we took, this girl, she was probably 13, and she stood on the beach, and I could tell, like, she wanted to get in, but she wasn't, because she was nervous. So, there's peer pressure, and her friends, and they're screaming and splashing, and so I just kind of pulled to the side and said, why don't you come in with me? And I held her hand, and we stood there for a while, and she just put her face in the water while she stood. And then she kneeled down. And probably after, it took about 15, 20 minutes, but then we swam. And she actually put her face in the water and swam around with me. And we have a photo, and it's one of the most amazing photos I've ever had. And she's got a great big smile on her face, because she didn't like the snorkel, so it's shallow. So it's okay, just put your face in with your mask and you can stand up and breathe. It's easy. And she is smiling from ear to ear. And this was a kid that didn't want to get in the water. And now she doesn't want to get out. And that to me is a success. It's a success for sharks, for the oceans, and for these kids. Because the Bahamas is a shark sanctuary, but if the future generations don't protect that and maintain that, it will disappear. So I want these kids to have those opportunities, because in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they're voting, they're making decisions, they're going to have government jobs. These are the people that are going to protect the environment in the Bahamas. And if we don't create those connections with nature, they're not going to care. And it's really hard to care about something that you don't understand or you don't relate to. So we are creating firsthand experiences, that connection, that empathy, which is absolutely necessary for conservation.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing. That is so amazing to hear, that they literally don't want to get out of the water at the end of the day. And, I hope that when it's safe again, that Sharks for Kids is able to provide lots more experiences like those, because, like you said, it's really the most powerful way for someone, whether it's a kid or an adult, to form a connection with sharks that's their own, right? So they can form their own thoughts and their own opinions and take their own actions.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as it's safe and possible for us to do it, we will be running those field trips again and getting students out. And I'm always in contact with the teachers, and just we're just waiting for it to be safe and healthy for everybody. That's the first priority. And as soon as it is, then we will be running those field trips again and getting students out.
So to wrap up, Jillian, I want to end with this simple yet very important question. Why is it so vital that we as humans respect and protect sharks?
There's a lot of kind of longer answers about that and why they're important, but ultimately these animals keep ocean ecosystems healthy and balanced, and they control prey populations. They control prey behavior and distribution, which means that, the animals that they're eating, and not every shark is an apex predator. We kind of hear that a lot, but no matter kind of where they are in the ecosystem, they're help keeping it balanced. And those healthy ocean ecosystems affect all of us. And no matter where you live, the ocean is part of your life every single day. And sharks are part of healthy oceans. So really, for all of us, these animals are incredibly important.
Well, Jillian, on behalf of our global community of PADI divers and ocean lovers, thank you for sharing your love of sharks with the world, for creating the next generation of shark advocates all around the globe, and thank you for joining us on Dive Stories. It's been so great chatting with you.
Oh, thank you, Allison, and the PADI team for having me and supporting so much education and conservation and just inspiring people to connect to the ocean around the world. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share my shark story with everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Dive Stories. You've just heard Jillian Morris, shark photographer and conservationist, marine biologist, and founder of Sharks for Kids, living on the tiny Bahamian island of Bimini. To learn more about Jillian's work, you can find her on social media at Bimini Shark Girl, and for top-notch educational shark content, visit sharksforkids.com. That's sharks, the number 4, kids.com. Looking for ideas of how to turn your passion into purpose? PADI is on a mission to unite people from around the globe to take action for the ocean, above and below the surface. Like divers holding a torch, this growing community of PADI torchbearers lights the path towards a better balance between humanity and the ocean. You can sign up right now to join this global community at padi.com/conservation. Together, our collective light shines brighter. This has been Dive Stories, brought to you by PADI, Seek Adventure, Save the Ocean. If you love the ocean and enjoyed this podcast episode, please subscribe to Dive Stories in your podcast app and feel free to leave a review. Follow PADI on social media and head to padi.com to join our community of torchbearers working together to seek adventure and save the ocean. I'm your host, Ocean Allison. Happy diving!